We don't have any pictures that correspond with the allegation that Ms. Flores is making of, kissing.
I mean, he's
without
sniffing
somebody.
a woman's hair right there. That's what she said he did.
So it turns out that Joe Biden is a bit of a creep. Who knew? Now, one of the people that have finally come out and discussed this, look, there are lots of images of Joe Biden awkwardly touching women. I'm going to get to some of those images in a bit here. But first, I want to show you Lucy Flores. So Lucy Flores is a Democratic politician, a former member of the Nevada State Assembly, who has now publicly come out and talked about how she felt when Joe Biden awkwardly touched her and kissed her from behind. So let me first play this clip from Lucy Flores when she was on CNN.
Well, it happened also suddenly. Anyone who's ever been at a rally recognizes that there is just chaos. There's a lot of energy, that everyone's running back and forth. Eva Longoria was there. We were all lined up next to the stage. Eva was in front of me. Joe Biden was behind me. I'm kind of preparing myself to give these remarks. It's the very last days before the election. And very unexpectedly and out of nowhere, I feel Joe Biden put his hands on my shoulders, get up very close to me from behind, lean in, smell my hair, and then plant a slow kiss on the top of my head. And that in and of itself might not sound like it's a very serious thing. That in and of itself might sound like it was innocent and well-intentioned. But in the context of it, as a person that had absolutely no relationship with him afterwards, as a candidate who was preparing to make my case for why I should be elected the second in command of that state, to have the vice president of the United States do that to me so unexpectedly and just kind of out of nowhere, it was just shocking. It was shocking because you don't expect that kind of intimate behavior. You don't expect that kind of intimacy from someone so powerful and someone who you just have no relationship whatsoever to touch you and to feel you and to be so close to you in that way. So I frankly just didn't even know how to react. I was just shocked. I felt powerless. I felt like I couldn't move. I just didn't even know how to process it. And my bigger point that I've been making is that in these power dynamic situations, and women are subjected to this in the political setting, but in work settings all the time, that you just kind of process it and then you move on because you have a job to do. And frankly, what do you say? Who do you tell? There just isn't really a mechanism to deal with it. And so that's what I did. I went on and I made my case and campaigned and frankly then went on with my life because, again, what do? Never do I claim that that rises to the level of a sexual assault or anything of that nature. What I am saying is that it's completely inappropriate, that it does not belong in any kind of a professional setting, much less in politics, and that is something that we should consider when we are talking about the background of a person who is considering running for president.
All right, so Lucy Flores tells her story there, and look, she's not claiming it's sexual assault. It's clearly it's different than a lot of sexual assault cases. But Lucy Flores is talking about, she wants to discuss what is and isn't appropriate behavior. So when you don't know somebody and you come up from behind them and you grab them and you touch the back, you kiss the back of their head, this is really weird. For anybody to not acknowledge and recognize that, and there are many liberals I've seen online defending Joe Biden here, which is absolutely ridiculous. For anyone to not understand this is clearly not appropriate, I don't even know what to say. I mean, it's obvious on the face of it that this is not appropriate. Now, there can be a larger discussion. I don't think, look, understanding Joe Biden and his history doing it in front of cameras, I don't think Joe Biden is doing this with bad intentions, but his intentions don't matter. It's how the person feels. And you can see from other images of him doing this, which I'll show after the next clip. It's clearly these people largely are not comfortable with him doing this, especially if you don't know Joe Biden that well and he's grabbing you and touching you and putting his face in your hair. The whole thing is really awkward and weird. Now, let me Let me play this clip from CNN. So Nomiki Konst was on CNN, and they were having this panel discussion about Joe Biden doing this. And I just want to play this funny moment.
But we don't have any pictures that correspond with the allegation that Ms. Flores is making of, kissing
I mean, he's
without
sniffing
somebody.
a woman's hair right there. That's what she said he did.
Let's see that image again. Mm-hmm. Can we see that image again? Well, was that it?
No, not that one, the other one.
Okay.
But I mean,
All right, I don't know if he's kissing or if he's whispering or touching, but or leaning in. But what you're trying to say, Nomiki, is,
I mean, while the host is talking about how we don't have any images of Joe Biden doing this kind of thing, there is an actual image on screen of Joe Biden doing the exact kind of thing that he did to Lucy Flores. So the kind of pretzels that the mainstream press are like nodding themselves into over this allegation is absurd. Clearly, Joe Biden has a record of doing this. If any other 2020 candidate, imagine Bernie Sanders, a story about Bernie Sanders doing this exact same thing came out. He grabbed a politician, a Democratic politician from behind. He kissed her on the back, on the top of the head, put his nose in her hair. Imagine there was an allegation of Bernie Sanders doing this. Do you really think CNN would be playing this neutral game as they're doing here with Joe Biden? Of course not. Now, to be completely fair and give you full context on that exact image that was shown on screen there, it's actually someone that Joe Biden knows well, and she's actually defending him. So this story went out yesterday. Ex-Defense Secretary's wife says photo of Biden touching her is misleading. So she goes on to discuss how her and Joe Biden are close friends, and he was simply whispering in her ear about how he's proud that she let her husband take the job or whatever the situation was. She's defending him. So just so you understand the full context of that situation. But that isn't the case with all these people. Clearly, it wasn't the case with Lucy Flores. Let's take a look at some of these other pictures. I mean, he does this to young girls. Like, he gets super up close to these girls, and clearly they are not comfortable. I mean, the video of both of these situations, when you go and watch them, it's completely awkward. And this is not something anybody should be doing. Now, imagine Joe Biden was doing this to men. So I have an example image that I found online. I'm not sure who made this, but I cracked up laughing because it is so absurd. Look at this. Imagine Joe Biden did this to Jeb Bush. This would be super creepy and super weird. So why is it okay if he does it to women, but it would be crazy if he did it to a man? It's crazy either way. Nobody should be doing this to anybody that you don't know that well, or even if you know them that well. You should have consent. I mean, if there's no consent in the situation for someone to be that close to you in public, it is super creepy. So, again, nobody here is saying that Joe Biden raped anybody. Nobody's saying that Joe Biden committed sexual assault. But you have to understand boundaries. Joe Biden is clearly a close talker, but moreover, doing this to people from behind is more than just close talking. It is completely creepy and weird, and we should be having a proper discussion about Joe Biden's behavior. Now, another thing I want to bring up here. So, some of the allegations from liberals that are defending Joe Biden here are bringing up the fact that Lucy Flores was a supporter of Bernie Sanders in 2016, yet they don't mention the fact that Lucy Flores actually left Bernie Sanders' Our Revolution group over some accusations that she wasn't happy with the way Our Revolution was handling certain issues. So you can't on one hand say that, oh, Lucy Flores is saying this because she supports Bernie Sanders, and then just completely not at all discuss the fact that she actually left a Bernie Sanders group. So this is nothing to do with supporting certain candidates. This is everything about her wanting to share this story, and because she's in a more powerful position, it allows other people that are maybe not in as powerful positions to come out and discuss how they were also uncomfortable and have a bigger discussion about what behavior is and isn't acceptable. Now, I want to play just another clip from that CNN appearance where Nomiki Konst was on that panel.
this was not a new allegation. What Lucy was able to do and was use her position of, frankly, power to step up and say, because she knew it would get attention for others to feel that they were comfortable enough to step up and say that he has done this in the past. There are hundreds of photographs and videos of former Vice President Joe Biden doing this to other women. This isn't a new thing. She just wrote it very thoughtfully, using her voice, her platform, to get this out before, so that the media would essentially ask these questions. I mean, at the end of the day, I was a supporter of Joe Biden. I wanted him to run for president in 2016. But I think that we've all evolved on this, including myself as a former supporter, in realizing that this is not acceptable. It's not acceptable to touch women without their approval, without asking. It's not acceptable to grab their waists and kiss their necks, no matter what their age is, if you don't have a relationship or a friendship with them, or if you don't have their approval. And I think what Lucy was able to do was to bring texture to the story, and also use her platform to make sure that he's vetted. Even though he is the former vice president, he is vetted just as every other candidate will be.
So, Nomiki making a number of great points there. And since I keep bringing up how liberals are defending Joe Biden here, I want to give you just one example of that. I saw this absurdity yesterday, and my jaw dropped, even though in some sense it's completely expected. Feinstein defends Biden. Quote, "He reaches out and he touches. It's hardly sexy." This shows you the lengths that some of these liberals are willing to go to defend Joe Biden. It's not about what's sexy. It's not about Joe Biden's intentions. It's about putting your hands on somebody without their consent. That's what this is about. So when you put your hands on somebody and go as far as kissing them on the head when you don't know them that well, and you're doing it from behind without any consent, without saying anything to them, yeah, that's not right. So for any liberal to be defending this really shows you how biased they are. I mean, how they are unable to really look at these issues objectively, and instead they're looking at this through a partisan lens. So again, there's a question whether Joe Biden should run or not because of this. There's now more allegations coming out. A woman from I think Connecticut has come out Connecticut has come out and talked about this as well. The same sort of thing happened to her as well. So look, if you don't think this is disqualifying, and I think you can have a real discussion about that, there are a number of other reasons why Joe Biden should not. I mean, he can run, but he doesn't deserve to win the nomination. He's been on the wrong side of so many issues, whether it was him championing the crime bill, whether it was his vote on the Iraq war, whether it's his history on, whether it's with Anita Hill and other issues regarding race. And look, Joe Biden does not have a good record. I have a video of comparing his record to Bernie Sanders, and it's not to say that, clearly Bernie has a more progressive record, but it's not just about being progressive. It's about who was correct on the issue. So when you go back and look at who was right and who was wrong, now that we have hindsight and can look back at these issues and see who was right at the time, Bernie was right on these issues when Biden was wrong on almost every major issue. So these kinds of things matter. So when you add that to the fact that he also is a bit of a creep, yeah, it puts a question around whether Joe Biden should even bother running for president at all.